Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm Stephen Casco, CEO and founder of CardNotPresent.com and the upcoming CNP Expo. And we've got a special treat for today's webinar. Today we're going to be covering the story that merchants aren't hearing, attacking account creation fraud with mobile ID verification. Now, the information most prized by fraudsters these days is passwords and user IDs that they're using to take over and create online accounts. And it's not just banks in the line of fire nowadays. Card-not-present merchants of all sizes and types now have to think about protecting their business from fraud well before a transaction even occurs. And in this webinar today, you're going to be learning several basic things. You're going to be learning the security trends driving account takeover and account creation fraud. You're going to understand some of the merchant verticals that are most susceptible to these new fraud types, and how to safely onboard customers using the mobile device they're holding in their very hands. And we've got two phenomenal speakers today. First up, we're going to have our own editor-in-chief, DJ Murphy, talking. And a little later in the presentation, we're going to hear from Sarah Clark, the general manager over at MyTech. Well, once again, thanks for joining us. And DJ, thanks so much for being a featured speaker and presenter. The floor is yours. Why don't you take a moment and introduce yourself to our audience?
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate the introduction. Yep, my name is DJ Murphy. I am the editor-in-chief of CardNotPresent.com. We are a publication focused on the card-not-present payments and fraud industry. Steve and I started CardNotPresent.com about 5 years ago, and in learning about the fraud space at the very beginning of what we were doing, it was pounded into my head over and over again that the one constant about fraud is change. Fraudsters are always looking for the next vulnerability. Merchants are always struggling to keep up and struggling to get ahead and protect their businesses. So it's a cat and mouse game, hide and seek game that never ends. And one of the really significant changes that I have seen over the course of my 5 years is the onset of account takeover and account creation fraud. This is a significant sea change in the way that fraudsters are attacking merchants. Rather than going after the transaction, they are moving their attack way forward in the progress to the beginning of the account creation and the account opening environment. And this type of fraud is attacking at the beginning of a customer interaction versus the end. It is a completely new mode of attack, and merchants need a new mode of thinking to combat it. Later on, Sarah is going to detail one way to combat this, but what I wanted to do to start things out was to take a look at the trends that really have been driving this over the past few years. What is happening in the environment that is turning fraudsters away from the end of the process and towards the beginning of the process. So if we can have the next slide, I'll jump right into it. So when I consider e-commerce and when I am doing my reporting and my interviews, everything is seen through the prism of rising online transactions. Even in mature markets like the United States, the fact is we're seeing double-digit growth every year in online transactions, where overall retail growth is growing, but it's growing much more slowly. So whenever you talk about anything in e-commerce, you have to have that sort of as your baseline. Another major factor that has happened around the world and is happening right now in the US is the migration to EMV. What we saw in the rest of the world was a spike in card-not-present fraud after EMV was implemented. That is, when fraud becomes more difficult to perpetrate in stores, fraudsters go online. It's only natural. There's debate whether we're going to see the same spike here in the US as we saw in the rest of the world. What there is no debate about is that there's going to be more CNP fraud. So what you have in general as a backdrop is more opportunity and more incentive than ever before to attack online transactions. So using that as a baseline, it's kind of easy to see the beginning of the process of fraudsters thinking they need to attack in different ways. The main thing that has happened in my time, in my discussions, and when I'm writing articles, is that we are seeing the ability to perpetrate fraud at the point of the transaction is simply getting harder. Merchants have become more sophisticated. More merchants than ever are spending time and money protecting their transactions. They're using more sophisticated fraud tools. They are layering solutions. They're getting better at stopping fraud where fraud was happening. So naturally, fraudsters are now beginning to adjust. Next slide, please. So one of the biggest trends that is driving this is mobile transactions. Every day we see mobile, and I'm talking about not mobile at the point of sale, but I'm talking about online mobile transactions. We are seeing mobile account for a bigger and bigger percentage of online transactions every day. As you can see, that's the article on the screen right now is an article that I wrote. That is from a quarterly tracking report, and that tracking report has shown every quarter that 34%, which was one of the more recent ones, has grown each time I have reported on it. It was in the teens when I first started tracking that report. It went into the 20s. It last time breached 30 for the first time, and now it's more than a third. According to this one measure, a third of online transactions are mobile. So you have a new way that folks want to transact, and inherent in that new way, unfortunately, is that some things are more difficult. It's harder to key in information. That makes entering logons and passwords more difficult. That means that consumers are always looking for an easier way to transact, and one of the ways that they do that is to set up accounts so that they can do one-click purchase, so that it just they're not entering logons and passwords. They're not entering transaction information every time. The mobile device is making that more difficult, so they're looking for different ways to transact. One thing that the mobile device does lend itself to, however, is new kinds of authentication. The features of smartphones are just enabling more and more. So while you do have a challenge on one side, you have an opportunity on the other side. Next slide, please. Perhaps the biggest issue that is driving account takeovers and account creation right now is data. There is now more data available to fraudsters than ever before. You can see that article below. That is an article that I did recently on a report that came out from Gemalto. This is just one measure, but in 2015, they identified almost 750 million data records that were compromised in nearly 1,700 data breaches around the world. So we are awash in data, and the interesting thing that's happened is that the data that is prized by fraudsters has shifted. There's a change in demand. Once this data gets stolen, it is distributed to fraudsters who want to monetize it on the dark web. They actually buy this information, and what they're paying for the information has told us some things. It used to be that credit card numbers were the information that was most prized. Fraudsters could buy the credit card numbers, take them to e-commerce sites, buy something with a stolen credit card, and ship it to their address, and that was the end of it. Well, that has changed. Credit card numbers that used to go for several dollars per record are now sold on these sites for less than a quarter. So their value has plummeted. The information whose value has skyrocketed are account information, personal information, and logons and passwords. For instance, in that article that you see there, they identified that a Facebook account record goes for $3. Uber accounts go for $4 per record. Netflix was over $1. So you're seeing the value attached to the stolen information shift. It's no longer credit cards, it's now account information. And one last piece of trend information that is sort of tying all this together is how people, consumers, use passwords. The fact is 75% of consumers in the US, and it's mirrored around the world to a greater or lesser extent, but it's significant, use one password across multiple sites. So fraudsters that have access to stolen information, one of the reasons they attack accounts is because they can attack multiple accounts with one logon. Next slide, please. So you have all these sort of meta trends. You have increasing online transactions in general. You have EMV, that's leading to more CNP fraud. You have more sophisticated defenses at the point of the transaction. You have a higher percentage of mobile transactions as a share of online transactions in general. You have mountains of data that has been stolen and is looking for use, and you have people, much to merchants' chagrin, who are using the same password on multiple sites, and it's just making it very easy for fraudsters to access these accounts. So I've been talking recently to merchants for articles, for a paper that I'm doing on this topic, and across the board, over the past 12 to 24 months, they all have seen increases in account takeovers, and most of them have seen significant increases in account takeovers. Some merchants that have more guest checkout than accounts obviously will see less of that, but even those folks have reported to me that they are experiencing more account takeover. So what they're telling me is that the demand, or the reason they see fraudsters going towards accounts is they have so much flexibility once they access the account. They can do a ton of different things rather than just buy something with a stolen credit card and ship it. So, for instance, you might have seen in the news last year, Starbucks. There were big headlines, Starbucks has been hacked. Well, Starbucks wasn't actually hacked. Stolen passwords were used to exploit a vulnerability that Starbucks had. They were gaining access to accounts and changing the emails, and they were emailing e-gift cards that drained the value of their Starbucks account to new emails. Easy as pie. So it was a very easy thing for fraudsters to do. There are other ways that fraudsters monetize accounts once they gain access to them. They can go the traditional route. They can use a stolen credit card and buy physical goods, have them shipped, and sell those physical goods. Digital merchants are extremely vulnerable to account takeover. Online gaming sites around the world, since there is an account with value in it, are exceptionally vulnerable to this. I talked to someone at FanDuel here in the United States. That's a sports daily fantasy site, and they have accounts that they saw account takeover morph from folks coming in and draining accounts and just taking the value out of accounts. It changed overnight once they stopped that gap to folks coming in and setting up multiple games. They would just play a game together and simply launder money through that. So the types of fraud that are enabled when folks get access to an account, when fraudsters get access to these accounts, has opened up a whole new world to them, and sort of exemplifies why they're spending more money on this information than other information. So the upshot of all of this is that you have this issue that's growing. Merchants are, the merchants that I have talked to are struggling with it. They're annoyed that people could use multiple passwords and you know, get rid of the need for this, but they know that that's not happening, and that they are responsible for stopping this. So they're open to solutions. They want to attack the problem at the account origination level. They are now used to, because they've gotten so sophisticated in their transactional fraud, they are used to layering anti-fraud technologies. They're used to more and more sophisticated things. They're getting used to these mobile devices, and they're getting used to new ways to do things. They are concerned, very concerned about conversion. They don't want, conversion is a tough problem to begin with, and anything that could get in the way of that and introduce friction to the processes that they are using to sell is anathema to them. So that's exemplified by the problems maybe that 3D Secure has been having in the marketplace, especially in the U.S. You know, that's an effective technology that hasn't been used because of merchant concerns about conversion. So the merchants have seen this. They are interested in stopping it, and they are willing to check out new technologies to do so. So I'm going to turn it over right now to Sarah Clark. Sarah has one type of solution that merchants can look at, and she will take you through that right now.
Thank you. I'm Sarah Clark. I'm the general manager of our identity business at MyTech. And before I get into demoing and describing the solutions that we have that DJ mentioned, I'd like to share a little bit of information about who MyTech is. So we are headquartered in San Diego, California, and we are a publicly traded company listed on the NASDAQ. And our market focus has largely been in the past financial service providers. We do have over 4,800 as our current customers, and our products are used by over 60 million end users. We're best known as the inventors of a product called Mobile Deposit, and I'm sure many of you listening have used this product. It lets you take a picture of your check in order to deposit it into your bank account, and that's essentially been incorporated into just about every mobile banking app in the US. But beyond that, we've been innovating on the topic of mobile identity for quite some time. So if you think about that great user experience of having your check auto-captured by your mobile device and your deposit goes through, that can also be applied to identity verification. Instead of a check, you can use a driver's license and have that both captured as well as authenticated. So I'll be talking a little bit more about that. But through those types of products, in addition to Mobile Deposit, MyTech is also the global leader in using mobile capture to solve identity verification. Mobile is really our focus, and we're an industry leader in the category of mobile imaging, where we do hold quite a few patents in that area. So moving on, this is a slide that takes a look at how our mobile identity product line is structured. So starting on the left side of the screen, we have something called Mobile Docs. So Mobile Docs allows a mobile user to hover their smartphone, the camera on their smartphone, over a document to capture it as part of the user experience in a mobile app. So if the problem you want to solve has to do with mobile user experience around letting your end users submit various types of documents to you, then this is a great product in that it offers the auto capture experience and all of the image enhancement technology that MyTech is well known for. Moving up, mobile fill is all about extracting data. So if you're interested in improving the user experience around mobile onboarding, so the way your customers sign up for an account, and you would like to enable them to scan their driver's license in order to pre-fill data into forms so they don't need to type, then mobile fill is a product that meets that need. But moving all the way to the right, Mobile Verify is really the product that we have that addresses the market problem that DJ outlined. So Mobile Verify allows an end user to hover their smartphone over their driver's license, and it not only auto captures the image as well as automatically extracts all of the data, it also instantly evaluates the authenticity of that driver's license. So if you have a process where you want to be very sure that that end user on the other end of a mobile device is who they say they are, then a really good way to know that is to know that they're holding an authentic driver's license with the expected identity. It's basically bringing what you might do in person to a mobile device in a way that's actually more robust and more secure because the advanced computer vision can do a very good job at evaluating the authenticity of the driver's license. So just to reinforce some of what DJ was saying, where could you use that type of user experience? So really what we see in the market is, you know, I think DJ mentioned digital transactions, gift cards. There's a variety of high-risk type of transactions. Onboarding to an account that a customer might use regularly is another example where the transactions could be categorized as being higher risk. And in those cases, identity proofing or being confident the person on the other end of the mobile device is who they say they are is particularly important. If you're going to issue a digital good to someone or gift card funds that they can immediately use, you want to be really confident that they are the card holder and that you understand who that individual is. Same thing with onboarding to an account that they can use regularly. You want to make sure that the people onboarding are real and trusted identities. So in those cases, you can have those users scan their driver's license as part of that user experience so that you get that extra assurance. So the way that we kind of look at this in the context of security versus user experience, I 100% agree with DJ's other point about friction. There's always tension between the two. Right? So at MyTech, we're always thinking about how do we solve for both. So if you need stronger identity verification, there are ways to solve that by asking out-of-wallet questions and asking users for additional data that they need to type in. And that could give you additional security around identity verification, but that's also very cumbersome for an end user. When you look at great mobile user experience, using the camera can be a very natural and even fun action. So we really look at Mobile Verify as bringing the two together. So a higher level of identity security along with a user experience where you just hover over the license that actually can enhance the mobile user experience, especially in cases where you can use the data not just the authenticity result, to pre-fill a form for that end user, then it's really a win-win. So that's really what we look at MyTech, is solving for both security and optimizing the mobile user experience through mobile capture for identity documents. So let me go ahead and show you some demos now that I've talked for maybe a little bit too long about it. What you're seeing here is a native user experience around scanning the driver's license. And the first thing that we're going to do is scan the back. And it's going to automatically detect and parse the barcode from the back. And you can see that it put a green circle around that. The user didn't have to do anything other than hover their device over the license. So if you're interested in just using the data to make onboarding easier, our product extracts a lot of data from that barcode, and that can be used to populate the form. If you're interested in the authenticity of the identity, then you want to have the user also capture the front of the license. So what you're seeing here is an auto capture user experience where it automatically captured and verified the license, where all the user had to do was hover the smartphone over the license, and you can see below the Texas license the words captured and verified. So what this means is that as a merchant, you have a result where you have all of the data automatically extracted off the license, which is what you're looking at now. But you also know, in this case, definitively that that end user is holding an authentic license that was verified by the fact that the mobile verify product found an enhanced security feature on the format of the license. So the enhanced security feature that we look for is embedded deeply within the format, and it is the strongest security feature that you can possibly use to evaluate authenticity. So within that user experience where the user was hovering their smartphone over the license, it was finding and decrypting the contents of the security feature and was able to determine definitively that this license was in fact authentic and issued by the DMV. So you would now know the user has in hand an authentic Texas license for the name, in this case I'm using a sample that was printed for us by the DMV, but in the expected name. The other really neat thing about the way that this product works is that the security feature that we use is tamper-proof. So what that means is if the license is tampered with in any way, and in this case I simply replace the picture on the license, it will impact the integrity of the security feature. So in this case, if you have a tampered license, Mobile Verify will know, and it will be able to warn you as such, which is what you're seeing here. So in addition to native, you just saw apps, sample apps as if they were downloaded from the App Store. We also support mobile web. So in other words, if you have a process, responsive website that your users are using through the browser, you can also use our Mobile Verify product. So in this case, I just captured an image of the front of a driver's license, and it is real. So in this case, we did redact the info. And next, we're going to capture the back of the driver's license through the browser on the mobile device. So again, I'm focusing in on the barcode per the instructions that were provided as part of the user experience. And Mobile Verify is examining those images and again can extract the data, which you see happened very quickly, and again we have it redacted because it is real data, so that that end user, if there's a form in the process, gets the benefit of having that form pre-filled for them. And at the bottom you can see that a verification score was also returned. So again, since this is a real license, the verification score is very high. It's on a scale to 1,000. And you could be assured that this is a real driver's license that that user has in their hand. So very valuable tool for merchants if you want to have identity assurance as part of your onboarding process, or if you want to have additional identity assurance for particularly high-risk types of transactions, such as digital goods or very high-value goods. So that's the demo. My email is on the bottom left of this slide. I would welcome any feedback from anyone that's listening about our products or your thoughts about how our products fit into your ecosystem. It's sclark@mytechsystems.com. Our roadmap and our product strategy is very much driven from market feedback and market insight, so feel free to reach out. And of course, we're nominated for the CNP Awards, so would love to have you guys click on that link as well. And thank you. And I guess, DJ, back to you.
I believe Steve will be taking some questions here from the audience from here.
That's exactly right, DJ. So Sarah, please stick around. And by the way, thank you very much for mentioning the CNP Awards. For those that are listening, you can simply go to cnpawards.com and also vote for MyTech there if you'd like to. But take a moment, the audience, please take a moment and use the GoToWebinar software on the right-hand side of your screen to type in a few questions. And it's about half past the hour. We'll try to answer 4 or 5 before we end the presentation. So we've got one that's come in already. Here's one that says, how do account takeovers most commonly happen? Example, do they get into the customer's email accounts, or is it based on data breaches that are stolen information that's purchased at a later point in time? DJ, do you want to try to take that question? How do they begin happening?
Yeah, I think that this all comes back to the mountain of stolen data that I was talking about. In the conversations that I've had with merchants, they generally see logons that are working. They see complete logon information, which is indicating to them, they say, that this information is coming from a data breach somewhere, and that the folks that used their password in one place used it, with this particular merchant as well. So I think that there are any number of ways that they can access account information, and she mentioned email, or the questioner mentioned email. Phishing is definitely another way, but the fact is that there's just so much information from breaches out there that the main source for these fraudsters of that is data breaches.
Okay, let's look at another one here, another question. I'm worried that a solution that uses a camera to verify my customers' faces or IDs will slow them down, and they might go to a competitor. How do these tools that are being used to prevent account takeover affect the conversion rate? So, Sarah, maybe you want to take this conversion rate question.
Sure. So I think that using the camera is one of the easiest user experiences on a mobile device that a customer can experience. And the person submitting the question, I noticed they started with using the face. That's a part of our product suite I didn't get into. We also do support that. I think that more broadly, we're seeing very successful implementations of facial biometrics that are being very well received by end users. So I would say that the conclusion from that is that the friction is relatively low. These types of experiences work well, are well received, and customers, I think the point that I want to make is customers are aware of some of the security issues out there, and they tend to appreciate those types of experiences that they believe are actually protecting them in kind of the broader context of the market. In terms of the using the camera to capture an identity document as part of the process, so the point that I was trying to make during my slides is that especially if the process that you inject that into is during the account creation that they'll reuse, it can actually remove friction because it can remove the need to type in a bunch of information. So we see that as being a win-win for both the merchant and the end user. And we see that as the case for apps that are live with that type of user experience. Beyond that, if you have a high-risk transaction and identity verification is important before you issue digital goods or what have you, I would say that being able to use the camera is an experience that we've seen, 60 million users embrace through mobile deposit and our identity products, and relatively low friction.
Okay, excellent. Well, sorry, looks like a two-part question here. It's along the lines of, how do you actually verify something like a driver's license? Are you accessing DMV databases? And a follow-up question is, how does this verification tool work against perhaps photoshopped images that are printed out as opposed to the actual physical card? So two-part question there for you.
Yeah, so we use primarily, the answer to this can get quite lengthy, right, because there are different algorithms that are within our platform, so I'll try to be brief.
Sure.
In the user experience that I showed you through the native app, I mentioned something called an enhanced security feature. So this is a homeland grade security feature that's printed on the majority of US driver's licenses. And it's very powerful in part because it is invisible to the naked eye. So I know this sounds like very sci-fi stuff, and it was hard for me to wrap my head around it at first, but it's invisible to the naked eye, but yet it's something that using advanced computer vision, we are able to detect when the user is hovering their smart device over the driver's license. When we can detect and decrypt the data from this security feature, it really is a definitive result in terms of the authenticity of the license. So that's really kind of the heart of how we do it, and it's a very powerful check of authenticity. If someone were to create a representation of a license in Photoshop and print it out, or do other things that would basically mean that the license was not authentically sourced, the enhanced security feature would be compromised, and that would be something that the product would be able to detect.
All right, fantastic. Well, let's do two more questions and we'll begin to wrap things up here. One question is there anything on the roadmap to expand for international IDs? And with that question, there's another one that's very similar, which is, can this tool also be used for identifications beyond driver's license, such as passports from other countries beyond America? So passport question and the international roadmap for you, Sarah.
Yeah, so I really focused on US, obviously, in the demos that I gave, but we do have a global platform, so we do support 3,500 global identity document types. Passports are a big area for us. They're obviously used much more kind of widely outside of the US just for, more purposes than we use them for here. So yes, we support passports, we support 3,500 global identity document types using that same mobile auto capture user experience, and then a variety of authenticity algorithms.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Well then, we're coming up at 40 minutes past the hour. It's been a great presentation. Sarah, thank you so much for your time and the MyTech team contributing. DJ, thanks so much for your time as well, and please be on the lookout for our upcoming white paper that we're doing with MyTech on this very topic. And for those that are still on the line, if you like this issue and you want to learn more, then please take time to give us a good hard look at our upcoming CNP Expo. We're going to have several executives from MyTech as featured speakers as their sponsor. DJ is going to be highlighting more of his research, and he'll be a featured speaker as well. And we're going to have over 40 different sessions on a variety of different topics, all under the CNP umbrella, and this will certainly be one of them. So for the entire MyTech team and all of us at cardnowpresent.com, thank you so much for joining our webinar, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.